Hi there. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Joe Parente, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions. But there's one E that's often overlooked.
And that's educational. If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can help us to learn and develop as human beings. I'm your co-host, Ryan Vanderhei, and it's our mission with this podcast to help share these unique perspectives with you so that you can grow from the show.
The topic of today's discussion is the movie The Perks of Being a Wallflower. As always, there will be a ton of spoilers ahead, so proceed with caution and be sure to leave us a like, rating, or review wherever it is that you listen, as it really helps the show. Shall we begin, Ryan?
Let's do it.
Awesome.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
So The Perks of Being a Wallflower from 2012. Love the look on your face.
Yeah.
And that is exactly the way I felt about this movie.
Yeah, I could gush over this movie, man.
I think we should
do it.
we should gush
We
over
should,
this movie. This was a truly a passion work by Stephen Chbosky. He wrote the book, he wrote the screenplay, and he directed it. You couldn't really be more involved unless you starred in it, and he probably knows that he wouldn't be the right guy.
Leave it to the
perhaps.
professionals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my proverbial hat is off to him because I just thought it was a beautiful movie.
Absolutely. When I heard that it was, the person that seldom happens, where the director also wrote the book.
Yeah.
That seldom happens. So when I heard that, I was like, wow. Must have been a real passion project of his.
For sure. And you can feel confident that the adaptation is going to be pretty good.
Because nobody closer to the source material than you.
Exactly. I think that's really fantastic.
Yeah, you do it justice. Yeah,
you absolutely do it justice. And this isn't something that I had planned to talk about, but I just want to throw in there too. The soundtrack just so worked.
Oh.
And not just the songs that they pulled in from XTC and the Smiths and David Bowie, of course, but also the score. I thought was just really, really beautifully done.
Yeah, very complimentary to the story and to the characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I figured you as a filmmaker could really appreciate that.
Definitely. That's what you need for especially for a story of this magnitude that's tackling such risque, delicate topics.
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't want to go there.
Yeah.
It does a really good job.
Yeah.
Doing that, so.
It kept a really beautiful emotional consistency.
Absolutely.
Without being obtrusive. Oh, there's the score. You weren't thinking that.
Agreed. And I like that. I like when it's subtle.
Yeah.
It just does what it needs to do in the background. And it builds the scene for you.
Totally agree.
And I also realized when watching this that I'm a sucker for movies with a teacher.
Okay.
That understands the student, like an Edge of 17.
Yeah.
I'm just a sucker for like a movie where there's a teacher character that kind of influences one of the students, and they have like a good relationship, and it helps them like grow. I love movies like that.
I'm
so
with
this
ya.
one, when I started, I forgot. I had seen this movie years ago, and I had totally forgot about Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd was fantastic.
And his character in this movie and his influence on Charlie. And so I was super excited when he came on screen.
Funny, now that you say that makes complete sense, because in a lot of, I don't really like this term, but it's ubiquitous, the coming of age movie.
Yeah.
A lot of adults are idiots. They're just ridiculous. They're like, they're antagonists. And when you have one that's not only reasonable but caring, it really stands out.
It's a good plot device.
It's a great plot device.
Yeah.
And I loved his dynamic with Charlie.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
I thought it was great. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So
let's come back a little bit.
I'm gonna come back.
Sure.
And get to the topic of our discussion around this movie today. There is a scene in the movie where the main character, Charlie, who's played just beautifully by Logan Lerman, asks his favorite teacher, Mr. Anderson, his AP English teacher, played by Paul Rudd. Why do people choose the wrong people to date? And Mr. Anderson pauses and says, we accept the love we think we deserve. Which in and of itself is a great line.
It's iconic.
It just hit me so hard.
Yeah.
But then I like this. Charlie asks, can we make them know that they deserve more? And Mr. Anderson replies, we can try.
Oh, man. It's just such a beautiful moment. That's my favorite scene in the film. And it's become a national treasure. Since this movie came out, it really caught storm, that line specifically. We
Well
accept the love we
deserved.
think we deserve.
Well deserved. I didn't know that, and so I guess my making this the topic of our discussion might not be terribly original.
Sure.
But it's what moved me.
Of
and
course.
it just stood out so much. And there were lines later in the movie that also really stood out. But to me, this gets at the essence of what this movie is about.
Yeah.
It's about people's struggle for acceptance, acknowledgement, love. And it's not just about, can I find it? Do I deserve it? But it's also about giving it.
Yeah. How do you show it to other people?
Exactly. And I think that exchange happens in so many scenes. I was telling Ryan, all y'all out there, before we started taping, that it's hard not to go over absolutely every scene in this movie.
I know, because it's all so good.
It is also good.
You have to leave out some of it. Otherwise, we'd be here for 5 hours.
We would, which would be great for us, but maybe not for
the listeners.
not for the listeners.
Right.
So let me just give you all y'all a brief overview of the movie if you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, and we're just going to remind you. Charlie's about to begin his freshman year of high school, and it starts with him writing a letter to an unknown friend whom he's never met, and asks this friend not to try to figure out who he is so as to not make them uncomfortable, which I thought was kind of interesting. Charlie has recently been released from, I think it was Mayview Mental Hospital. We don't know why, but you can tell that people are kind of walking on eggshells around him, and they're concerned about him. And Charlie is going to do his best to have a good attitude about high school. Obviously, he's made the transition from junior high to high school, so it's a new school.
Yeah.
So he goes there thinking, well, all I have to do is think about my graduation, which is in 1,384 days, and perhaps that'll help me bridge the gap if I keep my eyes on the prize.
Yeah.
But that first day is rough. His own sister is a senior. Does she help him out? Can he eat lunch with her? No, seniors only. She's at some club thing. He just clicks through people that he knows. Brad, who's the quarterback of the football team, and his brother, who graduated the year before, used to play football for him. So he knows him. Brad ignores him. His friend, I think, Susan, Julia, from Ozarks.
See something. Julius.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I didn't plan to. She was so good. She's fantastic.
She's amazing.
She is so
I was so
fantastic.
surprised. She has such a small role.
She has
She's
such
like
a
basically
small
a
role.
background actor.
She ignores him. Julia.
Garner.
Yeah. Thank you.
Garner.
She ignores him so beautifully. You could see she had an excellent future. And sorry, Julia, that we didn't get your last name right off the bat. But it just sets the scene that this is going to be
A tough
time.
Yeah.
For a kid who's clearly very sensitive, very bright. So I'm going to go through some characters, the main characters, and a bit of like their story arcs and how that relates to the theme of what we're talking about today.
Great. I love it.
So first we meet Patrick, played so well by Ezra Miller.
Oh, my
Some
favorite.
people are born to roles. I've seen Ezra Miller in other things, and I didn't realize it. He just jumped out so much in this.
He's perfect. He was the perfect cast.
Perfect cast. I understand from reading IMDb that he did so well with his, Zoom audition that he was given the part within 5 hours.
Wow.
They found him to be so charming and engaging and really perfect for Patrick.
Whenever I hear stories like that, I'm always curious as to what scene it was. What
Yeah, me
scene he
too.
read for. Like, what was the scene that what if you had to guess? What do you think? You as an actor, me as a director, what scene would you do you think it would have been? And then I'll tell you what scene I think.
That is such a great question because wait a minute, so many scenes are going through my head, including one that I'm going to bring up because he played it so beautifully. Well, there's a scene later in the film around New Year's where he and Charlie go for a drive.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
That is a really good one.
That's a really great scene.
And one that I'm going to talk about is his toast.
Oh, okay, the toast. Yeah, I think if it were me as the director, I would have done him confronting Brad in the cafeteria.
That was so well done.
Yeah, I feel like there's some range there, so I feel like I would want to.
That's a really good point. Well, that's why you're the director here. I'll stick with
Who
the
knows?
acting.
We may never know.
Yeah, true.
one it was.
That's something I want to YouTube though.
Yeah.
If we could find his audition tape or whatever,
I love watching
that would
those.
be fantastic. So Patrick, played by Ezra Miller, is a senior, and he's in freshman woodshop, and the teacher hasn't come in yet. And to make an effort, he makes an effort to make the freshmen comfortable by drawing a goatee like the teacher has on his face and kind of imitating the teacher. And then the teacher comes in. It establishes Patrick right away to me as kind, goofy, creative, different, but not only that, confident enough to get up there. And when the teacher comes in, he didn't shrink. He didn't run to his seat.
No, he still stayed with it.
He stayed right with it, you know?
Uh-huh.
And they kind of go tete-a-tete.
Yeah.
And I think that just, that set him up really quickly and really well.
It was a great establishing scene for a character because we
Wasn't
get to
it?
really know all we need to know about Patrick to set up his character in that small little scene there.
For sure.
We get a perfect idea of what he might be like.
I totally agree. And what we also got was, and this is just a little side note for me, he was comfortable in his skin.
Yeah. Yeah, he
And-
wasn't shy.
No, he wasn't shy. And that trait served him so well in this movie. And it ran through his character so fantastically.
And I think we can see on Charlie's face that he kind of takes a liking to it.
Absolutely.
He kind of gravitates towards Patrick in that moment.
Well, Charlie in the voiceover talks about what Patrick was doing, and by making the freshmen comfortable.
Yeah, he liked that.
That it was really
was
very
endearing.
considerate,
Yeah.
and very endearing.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about Patrick and Brad
Okay.
and that story arc, because
Yes.
this is about, again, the love you deserve,
Yeah.
accepting the love you think you deserve.
Right. Sure.
So I figured this might be a good place to start with Patrick.
Love
So
this.
we'd alluded to the fact that Brad was a high school quarterback, and he is a seriously closeted gay young man. And Patrick is gay, and I'd say he's out.
Yeah, I would
I don't
say
think there was any secret about that
No.
at the school. So it's explained through various ways, through voiceover and through dialogue, that the only way that Patrick and Brad would hook up was when Brad got really drunk on
Yeah.
the weekends.
Yeah.
And then on Monday, he claimed that he was so drunk he doesn't remember a single thing he did, which was painful for Patrick. of
Sure,
course.
that's hard to hear.
Brad also said that if his dad knew, his dad who was very Catholic, if his dad knew, he'd kill him. This was done in a voiceover of Charlie looking from behind at Brad and his father in church while he's describing this. And Brad also feels just so burdened with the guilt.
Yeah, he can't be who he really wants to be. He's got to hide.
Yeah, he thinks he's going to hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he doesn't feel so strongly about himself, and he's leading a truly dual life
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
So somewhere in the story, Brad's father catches Brad and Patrick making out in the basement. and he starts to beat the living crap out of Brad. Patrick, and he tells Patrick to just leave,
Yeah, Patrick tries
to
to
just
help.
go. Patrick tries to help. Brad doesn't want his help.
Yeah, he
Probably
tries
on
to
some
leave.
level, he thought, I deserve this.
Right. Right.
And so Patrick left.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the scene then that you had just referred to.
Yes.
In the cafeteria, Brad calls Patrick
Mm-hmm.
in front of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick comes back and throws a right hook.
Well, first it's his friend trips him, right?
Sorry, I didn't talk about that part. Yes, the friend trips him. They all laugh. Patrick asks Brad, like, why don't you
gonna
come
say
to my
anything?
defense?
Yeah. This is the first instance we see where Patrick is kind of making like what's happening between them public
Absolutely true.
in a way. Like he's
Absolutely
gone
true.
along with the
Yes,
secret.
he
But
has
this
got
is the first instance where
That's right.
they just, Brad's bruised up
That's right.
because his dad beat the crap out of him, and then he gets tripped by Brad's friend,
Correct.
and then he comes back and says, "Are you going to say anything?" And then he almost got out of it. Brad, he was almost gone. Patrick was almost walked away, and then Brad obviously
Drops the line.
drops the
Yeah.
drops the word,
Yeah.
drops
Yeah.
the F word,
He
and
dropped
then
the F word.
Patrick comes back, and
Yeah.
obviously the fight ensues.
The fight ensues.
And I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. So the fight happens, and one person came to his defense.
Mm.
His half sister, Sam. We'll get to Sam.
She tries to jump
She
in and
does.
help.
Yes, she's played by.
Like pull them apart.
She's played by Emma Watson, but she's trying to pull apart, a football player. Several these because Brad is with the guys from the
Football
football
team,
team
yeah.
who are large, and she's small, and she is actually physically thrown.
Yeah, she just gets
She
shoved.
gets thrown. So Charlie
Who at this point in time
is
not talking to them.
correct. He's
They've had a
estranged
falling
from
out.
them. They'd have a falling out.
Yeah.
But he sees this happening, and Charlie is not a big guy.
No, not by any means.
He's not an athlete.
He's your average
Correct.
high school kid.
But we see him come over, and then kind of like the next thing we know, the fight has ended, and you're looking at Sam, Patrick's stepsister, who's looking shocked. Everyone is looking shocked.
Yeah.
One of the guys is down on the ground. Two of them are holding their noses,
Yeah. And then he looks at his.
and he looks at his bruised hand.
Yeah.
Charlie did some serious damage to those guys.
Blacked out.
He'd blacked out
Yeah.
during this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that his defending Patrick was an extreme act of bravery. Yes, it's clear that Charlie had some rage inside of him,
Sure.
but he was truly coming to defend someone he loved, and he was taking a mighty bodily risk
Sure.
because these guys were huge.
Yeah, he didn't have to do that.
He didn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm. Speaks to his character.
It speaks a lot to his character. And then, of course, he was no longer estranged from Patrick and
Right.
Sam after that.
Right.
I just thought that was a really fantastic scene.
Mm-hmm.
I do then want to transition also to, not also, but I want to transition to later in the film. It's New Year's. And Patrick takes Charlie for a drive.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to kind of like a makeout point.
Yeah.
And Patrick is lamenting the fact that he and Brad are no more, and he was lamenting the fact that he didn't have a nice guy like Charlie.
Right.
And then couldn't help himself. He kissed Charlie. And I thought Charlie was so good because Charlie's not gay,
Right.
but he didn't push him off.
Right.
He just let him do it.
Yeah.
And when Patrick backed up and started to apologize, you could see Charlie's face is like, hey, man, It's okay.
Yeah, you're in a vulnerable moment now.
It's okay.
I understand.
I thought that was important because it was a realization for Patrick of, I do deserve more.
Yeah,
I
don't
want
deserve
more and I deserve more.
to be hidden behind a
Right. I don't want to have to
live a
lurk
secret.
in the shadows.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody that's proud and
Exactly.
wants to be with me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a really beautiful scene.
Absolutely agree. One of my favorites.
Yeah. I think
Too many to.
there are way too many.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm gonna move to Sam, because I could talk about Patrick for a whole long time. So we meet Sam, who's played by Emma Watson, at the homecoming football game.
Mm-hmm.
She's a senior. She's pretty. She has great taste in music, and we soon find out has been a victim of sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
I think she does not play initially as someone who has been through something like that.
Yeah.
I think she plays pretty self-assured. And she was also just likable from the onset. And she was also kind to Charlie from the onset.
Yes.
Just to set up that scene, that initial scene where we met her, it's homecoming football game. And Charlie comes by himself, which I thought took a lot of courage.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't know where to sit, but you hear Patrick exuberantly cheering.
For the football team.
And you're thinking, really? He likes football? Because we didn't know about Brad yet.
Yeah, yeah.
And eventually, Charlie looks over and says, "Hey, Patrick." And everyone, because of the woodshop teacher calling him nobody, everyone in campus had been calling Patrick nobody.
Yeah.
And it really caught Patrick that, wow, you called me by my name. He didn't say it right away. But he goes, "You're in my woodshop class.
Yeah.
You know, come over and sit with me."
Yeah.
And just, it was that, he just completely took him under his wing, totally and completely,
Yeah.
right there. And then Sam joins them, and she asks her brother, "Who is this that's sitting in between us?" You know,
Yeah.
it's Charlie. He's, you know,
After a while, she's
yeah,
like,
yeah. And who are you?
Introduce.
So, man. So, rather than go down that, because I could just go chronologically and we can't go down that river,
Yeah.
let's talk about Sam and Craig.
Oh, good.
Craig was her college boyfriend.
Yes.
So he, I believe, is at Penn State.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they were all at Penn State. So the first sign of cracks is Sam and her friends in this group that we come to know would perform at the Rocky Horror Picture Show
Along with
the movie.
Patrick. Yeah.
And along with Patrick and the others in their group, and Craig was one of them that would do this performance probably once a week.
Yeah.
And we see Craig hasn't shown up. She's called him 30 times. She doesn't know why he's there. It was just kind of like the first crack that we saw.
First instance.
And also, Charlie stood in and he rocked it.
Yeah, he did. He did a great
It was
job.
awesome. Then the next crack we see is the homecoming dance. Sorry, it was the Sadie Hawkins dance.
Yeah.
And Charlie clocks Sam off by herself. And he comes over and he says, "Where's Craig?" And she goes, "Oh, you know, he just said this dance is it's stupid." And
Right.
she said, "And I don't blame him." And Charlie's like, "No, if this is something you like, he should be here."
Right.
And she was rocked by that.
Yeah. I think she wasn't considering it from that
She really wasn't.
point.
And she also knew he was right.
Right.
So that's the next schism we see. And we also see that Charlie wants better for Sam. He wants to be one of those people that helps her see that she deserves more.
Right. Like his teacher said.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought that scene really showed that
Definitely.
in a beautiful
You could see how what
way.
his teacher said affected him and how he started to
Big
kind
time.
of see things
I
from
agree.
that perspective.
I really agree.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie finds out that when Sam was a freshman, this is something that Charlie's sister told him. that seniors would get when Sam was a freshman. Seniors would get her really drunk and have sex with her.
Mm-hmm.
And as she told Charlie later in the film, she used to sleep with guys that made her feel like shit. So Charlie asked, in a scene with Charlie and Sam in Sam's room, Sam tells Charlie asks her about her first kiss. And boy, I did not see this coming. And I rewound it and watched that scene a few times.
Yeah.
To watch how Emma Watson played it.
Yeah.
So she tells Charlie that her first kiss was when she was 11. His name was Robert.
Mm-hmm.
And that he was her dad's boss.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Which the way it was written, as she's talking about it, as she's saying it, oh, it was when I was 11. It was Robert.
Exactly.
It just catches you. And she so subtly throws it in there. It's not like it was like this massive emotional reveal.
No.
It was just like, yeah, it was my dad's boss.
No, it's not like you could see the train or hear the train coming down the track.
Correct.
It was an instantaneous impact
Mm-hmm.
that was such a surprise.
Yes.
Which
agreed.
also explained, part of what happened to her was she was a freshman, and letting that happen. I was involved, edited a book that was the author is a woman who was viciously raped when she was 14, and I got to know her story extremely well. And it's not uncommon that when they are victims of sexual violence, it happens. It can happen again and again and again, because their value, their self-worth plummets, and they think, I don't deserve any better than that. And that may have been the case for Sam, who was trying to get into Penn State, to turn her life around.
Sure.
And I really love when she reveals this incredibly personal, incredibly painful thing to Patrick. I love how he responded.
Yeah.
And he said, my aunt had something.
Charlie.
How Charlie responded to Sam. Said, that happened to my aunt.
Yeah.
And she turned her life around, and I know you can too. And she's like, really, Charlie? You think I can?
Yeah. She
I
doesn't
thought that was
believe it or
really, really sweet.
herself. Yeah. Again, it's feeding back to what you said, what the teacher said.
Yeah,
Can we help them realize?
that's right.
So Charlie's in the process of trying to do that.
That's right. And again, because he really loves her.
Yeah, he loves her and he wants her to be happy.
Exactly. And that scene goes on, and I'm going to talk about that in the context of Charlie's story arc. So we're not going to continue that scene, even though it's hard not to talk about it, because the way that scene carries on from what we just talked about.
It's just so beautiful.
It is so beautiful. If it's not clear, we want you to see this movie if you haven't. Okay. So next, we're going to go to Sam finding out during the graduation weekend that Craig, her college boyfriend, has been cheating on her the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah. Don't we learn from just Charlie's voiceover?
Yes, we do. And we learn from his voiceover while he's taking pictures of them before the graduation, dance, and they're going to go away for a night to a hotel, everyone to party. And Charlie's talking about how he's looking at the pictures and seeing how happy she was at that moment before they got in the limo, before Craig told her that he'd been cheating on her for over a year.
Yeah.
Or
the
the
calm
whole
before
time.
the storm. Yeah.
The calm before the storm. So I thought this scene was really, there's so many, but again, this scene, her last night before going to Penn State. So she got accepted.
Packing up.
And it's the summer. So she just graduated, and now Penn State has said, you'll need to take these classes to be accepted.
Yeah.
So she's going to go to summer school at Penn State. So in her last night before leaving, again, they're in Sam's bedroom, Charlie and Sam. And she tells Charlie that she had lunch with Craig, her ex, And she said it left her feeling so small. And she wondered, why do I and everyone I pick, why do I and everyone I love pick people who treat us like we're nothing?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Ouch.
So Charlie told Sam what Mr. Anderson, Paul Rudd, had told him when he asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like then what Sam came back with, because he tells her, Charlie says, we only accept the love we think we deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And she just right away, then why didn't you ask me out?
Yeah.
Which I thought was...
Now, this is kind of the first instance we've seen where she, like, we have the kiss in the bedroom.
Yes.
That was more maybe of like a friend, like, I just want to be, I want the person to be someone who cares about you.
I'll
et cetera,
get to
et
that.
cetera. Yeah.
I'll get to that, because I think that was a really important scene.
Yeah. But then here, it's like, oh, the whole time she wanted him to ask her out too.
That's right. So, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sam saw that she deserved more than Craig.
Mm-hmm.
And she was challenging Charlie. Why wasn't he going after the love he wanted?
Mm-hmm.
Which was her.
Right.
Like, what's holding you back?
Yeah.
And Charlie said he just wanted to see her happy.
Yeah.
And she said, you can't put everyone else's life in front of yours and call it love.
That's a great line.
Dang.
Yeah.
Because she was really calling him out for living on the sidelines.
Right, and not taking
For having
charge.
this love for her and she could see it,
And
but not
anything
doing a
about it.
damn thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That opens up the door of how come Charlie doesn't feel he deserves it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which later in that scene gets triggered. We start to see
Right.
why Charlie doesn't feel he deserves it.
Right. Yes, it starts to unfold.
Wow.
And boy, is it
High impact.
gutting, yeah.
So now we're going to go to Charlie's story arc.
Okay.
And it's not just one person, it's Charlie and Patrick and Sam and Aunt Helen.
Yes, there's a lot of people involved here.
Right. Charlie goes to I love this scene. Charlie goes to his first movie, his first party with Patrick and Sam.
Uh-huh.
He unwittingly eats a brownie that Bob offers him. Hey, have a brownie. That's fantastic.
Man,
I'm really hungry. I didn't get a chance to
Yeah.
eat. So he wolfs this thing down. So, and of course he gets quite baked, as he puts it, like a cake. When Patrick's asked him, are you stoned? Are you baked? He said, like a cake.
Yeah,
That's what
such a
Bob
good
said.
funny line.
That was awesome. So while Sam is making Charlie a milkshake in the kitchen, oh, this was heartbreaking too. He tells Sam about his best friend and how his best friend didn't like parties and because his father was a real drunk. And so he didn't like drinking or drugs or parties. And Sam asked Charlie, well, where is he tonight? And he said, he shot himself last May.
Yeah, super just...
Kind of matter of fact,
Yeah.
but you could see it then.
Yeah.
He got it out.
Yeah.
But then what I loved was the impact that it had on Sam.
Yeah.
Emma Watson played that so beautifully. She just stopped cold.
Yeah. It was so jarring. I'm
It
sure that
was
was the last
so
thing she
jarring.
expected him to say.
It was the last thing I expected. You too?
Me too.
So she responded beautifully for us. And this is where this movie is so kind of unusual. The affection that comes after this. I
Yeah.
don't want to get ahead of myself. So,
Yeah.
so Charlie excuses himself to use the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
We then go to Sam talking to her half-brother, Patrick, and telling him what Charlie just told her.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get choked up on this
Sure,
one.
yeah, absolutely, man. It's very it's an emotional movie. It's very moving. Definitely moved me.
Yeah. Thank you for speaking while I couldn't for a moment there.
Of course, absolutely.
So now it's a much smaller group.
Mhm.
Most people have left the party.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie's sitting on the hearth of the fireplace next to a couple of girls in the group. And Patrick says, can I get everyone's attention? I want you to raise a glass to Charlie.
Yeah. Which is super sweet and super, man, you just feel good about Patrick and about Sam and who they are as people and understanding the situation and being empathetic. And
it was such an extraordinary move.
got to just love them as characters in that moment.
And he did it so well.
Yeah. It wasn't coming from like a pity at all.
No. God, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
There was no pity. It was
could so
purely
easily
affection.
cross into pity in that moment, but it was very affectionate. It was very considerate.
And it was. And what he also did, because he says, I want to make a toast to our new friend who sees things and understands. He's a wallflower.
Which is where we get the title of the movie.
And then he looks upset. And I even love how Ezra Miller said the line, what's wrong, Charlie? What's wrong? Why are you upset? And he said, I didn't think anyone noticed me.
Oh, it hurts.
And Patrick laughed and he said, well, we didn't know there was anyone cool left to meet.
Yeah, and then Sam says,
welcome to the island of misfit toys.
And then I think in that moment, Charlie's looking around and like, I found my people.
He did.
I found these are the people that I'm alike.
Absolutely. And like I will say on a personal level, I refer to myself as, a misfit toy. Now I want to go to Charlie having his breakthrough moment, piecing together what happened with Aunt Helen, who he had referred to earlier in the movie as his favorite person in the world.
Yes.
And at one point also he wished that he could have talked to Aunt Helen because he knew that she'd be able to help. I think that was finally when we saw, the breakthrough was that Charlie realized that she had sexually molested him. That took some time, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was confused.
It was their little secret.
So he didn't realize it until
he didn't realize it when Sam touched his thigh, when they were sitting there kissing on the bed, he had a shock look on his face. And she said, Charlie, what is it? And he just said, nothing.
Yeah, okay. Now that makes sense.
But it came out when he was at Mayview Hospital and the help of Joan Cusack, the doctor. That's when it came out that Aunt Helen had been the one who had sexually molested him. So he felt that was the thing that was really buried in the vault.
Right, because we see throughout the film he has these kind of visions of her.
And the vision he has is that
they're broken.
They're broken, but the vision he had in the movie was he was 7 years old. His birthday's on Christmas Eve. And Aunt Helen, first of all, tells him that the lights, I can't remember what they're called, but they're lights in the bags.
They're a runway for
luminaries. Luminaries are a runway for Santa.
Yeah.
And then she says to him that she's going to go get his birthday present.
Yeah.
And she says to him, and then later in the film, she says, it'll be our little secret.
Right.
You have the impression that her going to get the birthday present is their little secret. You find out later that their little secret was something very different.
Yeah, something very dark.
So Sam, to me, helped unlock that which was buried so deeply in him.
Yeah.
And that was why he'd been not even pushing Sam away, but not even trying to get close to her, because he felt he didn't deserve it. He felt responsible for his Aunt Helen's death, even though it was a freak car accident.
Right. It's worth mentioning when she went to get his gift.
She was killed in a car accident.
And that's why
correct.
he feels guilty.
Forgive me for not making that clear.
Because he calls his sister.
That's right. He
And he
calls
says,
Candace.
it was my fault,
And he
wasn't
said,
it?
yeah, I
killed her, didn't I?
I killed her,
Yeah.
didn't I?
So there's the guilt not only of that, but now
Correct.
he's unraveling and uncovering that this little secret that they had between them, was really this traumatic sexual assault that he
Yes.
had been sort of covering up
Yes.
or choosing to forget
Choosing to forget.
to help himself heal.
And I think it was beautiful that Sam was really the one that helped unlock that.
Yeah, agreed.
Who knows if someone else might have triggered that in his life, but I think he had to really feel love for Sam, who is now his most favorite person in the world,
Yeah.
to really be able to access that, which was buried so deeply, because that's probably why he had been in that hospital already.
Yeah.
And they had never really revealed the root cause.
Right. He says she was my favorite person until now,
Exactly.
when he's on the bed with.
Exactly. Which was a beautiful scene. So I also loved the last scene because Charlie was in the mental hospital for a while. He didn't say how long. He said he didn't want to go into details.
Mm-hmm.
He comes home to have dinner with his family, and he breaks the silence by asking his dad, "What do you think? How do you think the Penguins are going to be this year? The ice hockey team, the
Yeah.
NHL team."
Yeah.
And it does break the ice, so to speak. And then Patrick and Sam show up at the door, and they ask if Charlie can come out and play.
Yeah.
And I love that they drive through the tunnel, playing the song,
Yes. That
which-
the tunnel song. She
which
says,
is "Heroes" by Bowie.
found the tunnel
She
song.
found the tunnel song,
Mm-hmm.
and I could have quoted the whole last, soliloquy, the whole last several lines
Yeah.
of Charlie. I just love that they're in the pickup truck driving through the tunnel, and he's the one who gets in the back now to fly, whereas before, in the first time they did that, it was Sam. And he kisses her and he stands up. And he said, "I can see it. The moment when you're not a sad story, you are alive."
Mm-hmm. Such a great line. Such a great scene. Coming full circle. Because initially we see the tunnel and she stands up.
That's right.
And he's kind of just watching and observing her. And he's kind of, I think...
He's kind of awestruck by her, too.
Yes. Like, it's so cool what she's doing.
It's so cool. And they were so moved by the Bowie song Heroes that they didn't know. It was 1991. They didn't have the internet. They
Yeah.
couldn't just
Shazam
Google it.
Yeah. So it comes full circle back to it's the perfect ending.
It is the perfect ending. And when they'd gone through the tunnel the first time, I just want to bring this one up too. This is when Charlie was still stoned back from that party.
Yeah.
And Patrick asks him, "How do you feel?" He said, "I feel infinite."
Yeah.
And the last line, he said he could see, "We are infinite."
Yeah. Full
Which
circle moment.
full circle.
Yeah.
I thought it was so beautifully done.
Everybody, it's such a great story because everyone gets there. It doesn't even have to be a happy ending for
Agreed.
everyone. It just that everyone, it's realization is what it is. Everyone realizes, back to your theme, the love that they actually deserve.
That's right.
Patrick realizes it with
That's
Brad.
right. That's right.
Sam realizes it with Craig.
Yes, she does.
And Charlie realizes it with Sam.
Yes.
So everyone gets there, and it doesn't have to be this. Oh, they end up together, and it's la da da.
And that wasn't that way.
Right, and I'm glad it wasn't.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. But you could see, you got the sense of like, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, by the end,
know,
you're like, I think
they're going to be
they'll
okay.
all right, yeah.
And they'll probably be friends, and keep
In the
loving each
future,
other
yeah.
and have their own lives and go in their own directions. But I just thought it was, I've been using the word beautiful too much. Very touching.
There is another
And
line
moving.
there that I had
Oh,
written down
please.
at the end. I forget. Maybe it's in the tunnel when we're hearing his voiceover, but he says, "We can't choose where we come from, but we can choose where we go from there."
Yes.
And that's great.
It is. I wanted to put that in there too. I couldn't quote everything.
That's a great.
It's so good.
Well, before we get to, there's another scene I want to discuss.
Please.
That I felt a lot about. But do we want to do a bad guy break?
We can do a bad guy break.
Let's do a bad guy break.
All right. So the bad guy break is this is
I imagine this was difficult to find because it's not really like a bad.
No, it's not.
guy.
But so I had to go with the theme of what kind of love do you think you deserve?
Ooh, I like it.
And are you letting yourself have that?
Okay.
Okay?
Let's do it.
The year is 2013.
Okay.
The medium is film.
Okay.
The genre is drama / romance / sci-fi.
Ooh, interesting.
It stars Scarlett Johansson.
2013 drama, romance, sci-fi. Scarlett
Give you a few more
Johansson.
seconds.
Is this her?
It is.
Okay.
Well done.
Joaquin.
Yeah, and Joaquin
Okay.
Phoenix. I thought I'd put her because she was the voice of the AI.
Yes, the Alexa-esque.
Right. And that quote unquote love he had for her could never be actualized.
You're right. He couldn't be. It wasn't a real person.
It wasn't a real person. And there he is thinking that he's someone who doesn't deserve a real person.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
That's messed up.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's very, yes, very transferable.
I thought so. Because when I watched her, I had that feeling the whole time of, dude, what's your defect?
Yeah.
You know?
Why can't you? Yeah. Why don't you see that?
Because the premise is interesting, and particularly, that was a bit prescient because AI has come so far
Yeah.
since then. But I don't feel. Hopefully, people don't feel that way about Alexa or Siri.
I think that's yet to come. We got some advancements in AI yet.
Hey Siri, do you love me?
That's a good. That's a good response. That's fair. That's
respect
neutral.
That is so neutral. She's so non-committal.
Yeah.
Siri, damn her. Anyway, so that's the bad guy break. So
Love that. Good movie too.
so-
by the way. This
please,
really made me think a lot about how frustrating it is to be a person on the outside looking in and knowing someone that you care about, and they don't see it in themselves. They don't see what you see. Like, you see this great person who deserves better.
That's right.
But then they're with somebody who's kind of treating them maybe poorly,
That's right.
and they deserve so much better, and you just can't you can't really tell someone that flat out.
No,
You kind of have to dance around it. And it could be really frustrating
For sure.
as somebody on the outside.
absolutely true. And I do love. That's part of why I love that response so much from Mr. Anderson, Paul Rudd.
Mm.
Can
try.
we can try.
Simply put, we can try.
And don't you? That is just true in life, isn't it? Because obviously, when you're saying that as passionately as you just did, clearly you've had that in your life.
Oh,
where you-
absolutely. Too many times to
Yeah,
count.
for me too.
Yeah.
For me too.
I've been that person. I've definitely been that person before. I think
Me
maybe-
too. Do
maybe-
you care to expand?
Maybe we all have. I think, see, mine was so early on, thankfully. So I got it out of the way.
Okay.
So it was my first real relationship ever,
Okay.
when I was a teenager.
Okay.
And I dated this girl for 2 years. The latter 6 months, I didn't even want to be in the relationship. But she was emotionally manipulative and abusive. And I had so many people telling me, my mom, my friends,
Oh,
everyone
dear.
was telling me, in kind of coded messages of
Or probably some that were not coded at all.
maybe not my mom. My mom just lays it out. My
Right
mom
on.
just, this is a matter of fact.
Go, Mom.
So, but I was just, you're, again, I guess maybe blinded by the love. I was just too close to the sun. I couldn't really see it. So everybody was telling me, but all I saw was, no, I love this person.
So let me ask you this question then.
Sure.
Now that you have, some years under your belt,
Yeah.
when you look back on that, was that love?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Hindsight is 2020 and
But
always is.
But at the time,
At the time,
and you're young,
in
it's your first relationship.
Yeah, it's my first experience of what love is. A romantic love.
Okay.
Parents, whatever, but romantic love. This is my first time experiencing it. So it's such an intense feeling the first time you feel it.
Absolutely.
It just swallows you whole. So
Yeah.
I was in the belly of the beast. I couldn't, I was too far in,
Yeah.
to see it. But it was only until afterwards, until years later, I looked back on it and I was like, man, I should have ended that way sooner. But, that's why hindsight's 2020.
I hear you. And look, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, oh boy, have I been there.
Sure. We've all done it.
You said you were in like a year longer than you should have been. I was in for several years. And I should have. And boy, did I have the same thing. Friends and family trying to tell me. And I even had a professor or two try to help.
Don't you feel like such a goof afterwards?
Yes. God, I was estranged from some friends and family.
Me
too. And at the same time, what you just said, yeah, you feel foolish is probably a really gentle way to put it. But boy, did I learn a lot from that. And so did you.
Absolutely. Thankful for it.
Exactly. Me too. And that's important because if you don't see it, you're going to repeat it.
Agreed.
Over and over and over again. And I think that's part of the hopefulness I got from the ending of this movie was, I don't think they're going to keep doing this. I think they're good.
Yeah. I think they've learned and they're ready to embark on the next chapter.
Exactly. And it didn't also feel like a Pollyanna-ish kind of rosy, everything's great kind of ending. It felt just real.
Yeah. Felt honest, genuine, grounded.
It did.
Yeah. The whole movie felt like that to me.
I
felt very grounded.
I couldn't agree with you more. Are there any other scenes that moved you? Because, go ahead.
There was one scene in particular that I wrote down that really, oh man, it just gutted me so hard. And it's when Charlie's been kind of sort of ostracized from the friend group because of the way he treated.
Yep.
I forget her name.
Mary Elizabeth,
the girl that he was dating, which he kind of just was thrown into.
Right. He didn't want to be
He didn't have the
dating.
heart to say
Correct.
that he didn't want to date her. So he just goes along with it. And then it kind of all blows up at one point. And then he's on the phone with her. And she says to him, stop calling everyone. You're embarrassing yourself. And then we can see he's choked up.
Yep.
And he just says, okay, I will. Oh, man.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. This person who, he finally found his group, his people, his friends.
Yeah.
And then it just all gets ripped away from him. And just in that moment, to be like, okay, I will.
Yeah.
Oh, it hurts. He doesn't fight for it. He doesn't beg.
No.
It's just this acceptance of, yep, I messed up and I deserve this.
Yeah. And we were starting to see shades of what Charlie might have been like before the movie began when he was having a hard time.
Yeah, the depression, yeah.
Yeah, he was starting to really spiral.
Mm-hmm. God, that scene, man, it hit me so hard. I think I had to pause it and I had to take a second.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
Poor Charlie, man. I just feel for him.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And on a totally different note, one of the scenes that we were talking about, but we didn't finish, that I was so moved by in a different direction, was, Charlie had asked Sam about her first kiss, and she tells about her dad's boss who had sexually molested her. She asked Charlie, and he's never had a first kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And she tells him she wants his first kiss to be from someone who loves him.
Yeah.
And she kisses him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she just says, I love you, Charlie.
Yeah, and he says, I love
you too.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful moment. Again, moved in the right way.
My first kiss was not like that. I don't know about yours. Nowhere near.
No, definitely not. That.
And at first I thought, is that so kind of Hollywood or whatever? But as the movie progressed and you got to see more of who these characters were, that scene became even better to me.
Yeah, agreed.
Because you thought, you could see Sam meant it.
Yeah,
she was genuine.
Cliche. Yeah.
She wasn't being cliche at all.
Mm-hmm.
it was really remarkable to be able to pull that off with, in this kind of coming of age again movie
Absolutely.
without being cheesy, without it's walking such a fine line, and I just thought it was executed perfectly.
And so
Yes?
here's what it is.
Please.
So from a director's point of view, when
I
I'm watching
love
this
that.
movie,
Please.
it's the tone and it's the pacing. So it never feels cheeky to us. It never feels cliche because of how well the director, and again, if you were the one who wrote it, you know it the best. He pieced it together so well that the tone and the pacing feeds the story and the characters, and not, it doesn't seem, because there's so many instances in this movie where it could be a cliche moment. We've talked about a number of them. But because of how he crafted each scene and crafted the pacing of the film and the tone of the film, and keeps that thread line throughout, it never gets into that water.
It doesn't.
And he did a great job. Fantastic.
And the score and the music is part of establishing that tone and keeping that thread.
100%.
Because the music was never goofy. It wasn't. It was taking it seriously. The music took the movie and the stories and the characters seriously.
100%.
Respect,
Yes.
like Siri showed for me. Thank you so much. It was respectful to the characters.
Agreed.
I can imagine as a director, you would know that to keep that kind of consistency, to have that kind of tone. Yeah.
It's one of the most
That's
difficult things to do.
remarkable.
Yeah. It's one of the hardest things that people don't realize about a film is the tone and the pace.
Yeah. I think it was just.
It's everything.
It is everything.
Yeah.
So
Thankfully, he nailed it, because we wouldn't have this beautiful gem of a movie if he didn't.
So thank you to Stephen Chbosky for
Yes.
doing that. So speaking of movies, and I'm going to throw out some recommendations.
I love that.
Liked that. I had to think.
I want
hard
these for
about this.
myself. I'm listening for me.
I had to think hard about this because this is a movie about self-discovery ultimately
Yeah.
for all of these characters.
Yeah.
So here's some other movies about self-discovery,
Love it.
which are also / coming of age. Some of them,
Yeah.
most of them actually. So the first one is Girl Interrupted.
I haven't seen this. This is Angelina Jolie.
It is.
I've heard a lot of great things about it, but I have not yet seen it.
It's worth a watch.
Okay.
The second is The Breakfast Club,
Oh.
a freaking classic.
Yeah, that, if you haven't seen that, I mean,
Yeah,
you got to get back to the planet. We're on Earth.
totally agree. The third one, really, to me, is when Emma Stone came onto my radar. It's Easy A.
I love that movie.
Me too.
I
love
and
that
I love
movie.
her performance in that
She is
movie.
pitch perfect in
Yes,
that.
yes.
Absolutely pitch
Agreed.
perfect. But she had exploring to do. She was, and she did it, and it was
Yeah.
fantastic. Ruby Sparks.
I haven't heard of this. What's Ruby Sparks?
Oh yeah, it was written by Zoe Kazan, who also stars in it. Paul Dano is a writer, and he wishes a woman into creation,
Whoa.
and it's very
Some weird
interesting.
science shit.
Yeah, but it gets also to the heart of what he feels he deserves and what he wants and what he gets. So
Ruby Sparks.
Ruby Sparks.
I love Paul Dan. I'll watch anything. I'll watch him look at paint dry.
Well, then okay. We got to talk about that movie after you see it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the last one, Lady Bird.
Oh, Saoirse.
Saoirse she is
One of my
a
favorite
marvel.
working actors.
She's an absolute marvel. I will watch her make a cup of coffee and
Yeah.
be fascinated by it.
Yeah, yeah.
And Greta Gerwig. I mean,
Phenomenal.
it was just such a
Greta's
great
first.
movie. Yeah,
And boy, she knocked it out of the park.
boy, did she knock
Oscar
it out of the park.
nominated.
So
Great recommendations. Love it.
thanks, man. I appreciate it. So I think we're ready to start wrapping things up here.
We're gonna wrap this thing.
Because otherwise, we could just
go on for
keep
days.
going and going and going.
So, what did we learn from this movie in particular? That maybe sometimes people can help us figure out the love that we deserve
By showing it to us.
by showing us that love.
Is that what you were thinking too?
Yeah,
That is how you help.
yeah.
Because that's what they did in spades in this movie. They just loved on each other. And
Agreed.
it worked.
Agreed.
I like that. We came to the same conclusion So thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back, look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you've been looking for are lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.